We've all been cooped up at home since the beginning of this pandemic. The days just fly by in a blur, and we're just left wondering, what day is it even anymore? Why don't we show these days of the week some love? Maybe they're more interesting than they seem right now. So, let me take you on a little journey through space and time to find out how these days got their names. Our first stop is at the land of the gladiators, the city that was famously not built in a day. Yep, that's right, welcome to Rome. Imagine it's the year 100 AD, and you've just got a late show in the Flavian Amphitheater, or the Colosseum as most people call it. You linger on and gaze at the night sky, marveling the beauty of the stars and also fascinated by the fact that this was probably what it felt like before Netflix, gazing up at the sky for entertainment and maybe a good dose of philosophy too, watching for signs from your creator to understand your place in the universe. If you binge watched your favorite show in the sky, you'd start to notice predictable patterns across the sky as the stars moved. Pun totally intended. But like any show, the more interesting characters are those that are unpredictable, those that just traverse the night sky as they wished and didn't fit into any star cluster. You've heard the fancy people who speak Latin call them planetes, meaning wanderers. You've heard people reason that since these planets didn't follow any rules and were powerful enough to do as they pleased, then they must be the gods that listen to prayers and even accept sacrifices. The fastest planet to traverse the sky was named Mercury, the messenger of the gods. He was sharp-witted and also the deity of translators and interpreters. The shiniest and brightest had to be the most beautiful goddess, Venus. She was the goddess of love, sex, beauty, and fertility. The red planet, probably bloody from battle, was named the god of war, Mars. He was the most important of Roman deities. The biggest planet in the sky was named the king of all the gods, Jupiter. He was also in charge of the skies and thunder. The most distant planet was named Saturn, the god of agriculture, wealth, and peace. Along with Sol, the Roman sun god, and Luna, the Roman moon god, these 7 rebellious personalities were starting to gather quite a fan following. So much so that when the Roman scholars heard of how the Babylonians divide their month into 7-day cycles with one god in charge of each day, they decide that these 7 gods should be in charge of the Roman days of the week. That's when you hear these elite Latin speakers began calling the sun's day dies solis, the moon's day dies lunae, and so on. You hear of how other scholars try to establish an 8-day week and a 10-day week, but the 7-day week seems to be winning out in popularity. Fast forward 6 centuries or so, and the 7-day week is the norm in the entire Mediterranean region and parts of Asia. Funnily, the languages connected to Latin still dedicate their days of the week to the same planets. For example, Mars' day, which was Dies Martis in Latin, became Mardi in French or Martes in Spanish, and even Mangalwar in Hindi, where Mangal is Hindi for Mars. Here's how the other days of the week evolved. But this is just half the story, because I'm sure you're wondering that Mars' day does not sound anything like the Tuesday we know of. Well, to answer that question, we need to travel further north from Rome to the land of the Northern Lights and the Vikings, the region associated with the Anglo-Saxons, where present-day Germany, Netherlands, and Denmark are. The year is 330 AD, and there's a terrible snowstorm brewing. As you suffer in the biting cold, you can't help but think that the chilling winter breeze might be caused by the frost giants. Helplessly, you seek out protection against them by praying to the mighty gods. In Norse mythology, the chief of these gods is called Wotan or Odin, the Allfather. According to the legend, he and his two brothers overthrew the frost giants in war and created the earth, Midgard, from the body of the giant king. For those of you who watched my video on the Asuras, probably remember how the Asuras and the Aesir were related. Well, Odin was the chief of the Aesirs. He was known to travel across the 9 realms to gain knowledge and wisdom. The story goes that after the war had ended, Odin travels to Jotunheim, the land of the giants, to drink from the well of wisdom, guarded by Mimir, the most knowledgeable of all the gods. But Mimir wouldn't let him have even a single drop of water before Odin paid up by sacrificing one of his eyes. Odin, who was more than willing to pay any price to gain this wisdom, happily obliged. Ironically, it's said that Odin could now see more with his one eye than he could ever see with both his eyes. Odin's wife Frigg is also known to travel far and wide on a chariot pulled by 2 cats to gain knowledge and to protect the Midgardians. She selects and welcomes all the brave warriors who have died in battle to Valhalla, Odin's palace in Asgard. She even acts as a mediator between the Aesir and the Vanir. She is sometimes referred to as Freya, though the research I did on the topic wasn't conclusive as to whether they were the same or 2 completely different goddesses. Let me know in the comments below if you have more information. The next Aesir that you turn to is Odin and Frigg's son, Thor, the god of thunder and the bitterest enemy of the frost giants. He was known to be single-minded and impulsive. Thor's half-brother, Loki, on the other hand, was dramatically different from Thor. Where Thor was known for his raw power, Loki was known for his cunning and resourcefulness. While Loki was willing to help the gods, he was always playing dangerous tricks on them. In one such story, Loki snuck into Thor's wife Sif's room one night while she was sleeping and cut off her beautiful golden hair. An angry Thor demanded that Loki fix his mistake and get Sif her hair back. A frightened Loki goes to the dwarf Ivaldi's sons because they were known for their magical craftsmanship. But while the other gods would have begged Ivaldi's son to forge new hair for Sif, Loki played it extremely cool and instead told them that Thor and the other gods had sent him to get gifts from the dwarfs. That they wanted the dwarves to make hair just like Sif's that would attach to her scalp and magically grow like real hair. The dwarfs wanted to please the gods and so didn't stop at just the magical hair for Sif. They also made a magical boat for Frigg that would always be wafted by favorable winds, that could be folded and put in her purse. They must have been really good at origami. For Odin, they made the sphere Gungnir that never misses its aim. Loki took these gifts and was on his way back when he had another idea. He declared that the sons of Ivaldi were the cleverest of the smiths, so that the 2 dwarf brothers, Sindri and Brock, overheard. Brock, wanting to prove his superiority, wagered with Loki that they could make items that would be more favored by the gods. Loki agreed to the wager, with the stakes being the loser's head. Even though Loki tried his best to distract them, they were still successful in creating a magic golden boar, a beautiful golden band, and a hammer, the Mjolnir. All the gods were impressed and declared Sindri and Brock the better craftsmen. When Brock demanded Loki's head, Loki quickly pointed out that Brock only had claim on Loki's head and he could only take it so long as he didn't injure any other part of Loki's body, including the neck. When Brock realized that this feat was impossible, he was forced to let Loki go. I love this story because it gives people an appreciation for the cunning and the mischievous, not just the brave and the steadfast. Now, Loki has 3 children with the giantess Angrboda. One of them is the fierce and powerful wolf named Fenrir. As Fenrir got stronger, Odin and the other gods began to fear that he would soon be powerful enough to destroy them. So they decided to bind him in shackles. But they knew that it would be no easy task since Fenrir, being Loki's child, was as cunning as him. They have the dwarves forge a magical cord, Gleipnir, and tell Fenrir that they wanted to test his strength by seeing if he could break out of these chains. Fenrir knew something was up, but didn't want to miss out on the opportunity to show off his strength. So, he agrees to be bound only if one of the gods were to put their hand in Fenrir's mouth while he attempted it. No god was willing to take up the risk, which could only possibly end one way. Enter the final character you're meeting on your Nordic journey, Tyr. This brave war god stepped up and without any hesitation placed his sword-wielding hand as demanded into Fenrir's mouth. The gods at once bound Fenrir, and when the wolf could not free himself, he bit off Tyr's hand. But it's said that Tyr was equally adept at wielding his sword with his other hand and remained invincible in battle. As you move about and explore different regions with the Anglo-Saxons, these Nordic gods that you worship also come along with you. Around 410 AD, your people come across this exciting land. The Roman soldiers that occupied this region seem to be leaving. Soon, the head of your tribe proclaims this land as belonging to the Anglo-Saxons. It would come to be called Angleland or England. You also hear that the village elders have decided to put the Nordic gods in charge of the days of the week instead of their Roman counterparts. So, the Roman war god Mars's day was going to be the Nordic war god Tyr's day. The messenger god Mercury's day was going to be Woden's day, for he was known to travel the realms in search of knowledge. The thunder god Jupiter's day would be Thor's day. The beautiful goddess Venus's day would be Frigg's day. Saturn's day almost seems unchanged, but this day was actually sacred to Loki, and some people think that it came from Satyr's day, Satyr being another name for Loki. Along with Sun's day and Moon's day, that makes up the 7 days of the week. Alright then, it's time to come back to the present. Hopefully, you appreciate each day a little bit more now. Isn't it interesting though, how different parts of the world, either independently or through cultural exchange, came up with very similar myths? It goes to show how connected we all really are, even though we like to think of ourselves as independent, separate units. Well, that's it for now. I hope you stay strong because the end of the pandemic is almost in sight, and soon we'll be able to travel in real life. And if you happen to visit any of the places we talked about today, let me know if you think about this video and you feel like you're walking in the footsteps of gods. Until then, ciao.
It didn't break, right?
Broke.